What is up, you guys? I hope you're doing well. Shabbat Shalom. Tomorrow is Passover, or the first day, anywho, and so I will have several things to do tomorrow to prepare for tomorrow night's Seder. So I may or may not be able to do our full moon workshop. I still haven't done my taxes yet, so I've got to do that before Tuesday. So we may or may not have a full moon workshop. I'm going to try to do that maybe Sunday if I can. And we won't have secret teachings of Jesus tomorrow because I will be ritualing. So yeah, we're here tonight for our weekend reflection message, and it is very Libra heavy, very, very full moon oriented. So we've got the Libra in this, or Venus in the sign of Libra, indecision. We have the Sun in Libra, which is harmony. The two major traits of Libra, indecision and harmony. A lot of times they're in indecision because they're looking at the pros and cons of everything to try to maintain harmony, right? And then we have Jupiter in Saturn. Jupiter in Sagittarius. So everything is with its thing. Now, underneath Venus in Libra, which is indecision, we have Justice, which is Libra again. So the Libra card as Justice. The scales there. We have under harmony, we have Four of Wands, which literally is a card about peace and harmony, but also marriage and a time of prosperity. And underneath Principle, which is the Sagittarius in Jupiter and Sagittarius, we have Knight of Cups, which the Knight of Cups is often an invitation or a proposal. This is kind of a romantic idea, sweeping you off your feet, something theatrical. So I feel like there is like this tone of pairing and marriage in the air. But there's also this feeling of being very preoccupied with wanting to protect justice, wanting to maintain harmony and peace, but also fighting for justice in the most peaceful and productive ways that we can. We're trying to protect our Constitution. We're trying to protect justice in this country. So I'm actually going to pause here and let you guys listen to the audio, and then we will be right back. The Saturday's Libra full moon is highlighted with 3 cards representing Libra in this spread. The sign of justice and harmony, as we consider the implications of the SAVE Act, which just passed the House. It makes the idea of Passover and the Exodus even more relevant than ever. There's so many decisions to consider at the moment that will affect our future, both as a nation and as individuals. This act is an act of voter suppression that will unjustly disenfranchise many Americans, namely married individuals who took their spouse's name, requiring them to show both a passport and a birth certificate with matching names to prove their citizenship. This puts a heavy burden on women who did not keep their maiden name to track down the paper trail of their name changes or to legally change back to their maiden names to be able to register to vote. This needs to be taken care of as quickly as possible. Many of us are focused on fighting for justice for all people. Many of us are weighing decisions on how to relocate to different countries, possibly by an advantageous marriage that awards us automatic citizenship there. Others are trying to find marriage at home with someone who respects our rights and will honor us as individuals. Many of us are looking for ways to leave the country and seek asylum abroad and wonder if we will be safe there. There are many decisions to make, and everything hangs in the balance at this moment. We must pray that God will lead and guide us and protect us in our exodus, just as he did for the Israelites. Remember, Moses was in up to his eyes before the sea parted for him. We must pray and believe and trust as we are guided to act. All right, we here. So if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video because it'll help it get out to other people. If you can find it within yourself to do so. And leave a comment if you would like. If you don't know what to say, maybe leave some keywords that you think will help other people find this video. Okay, so for starters, we have indecision and we've got justice. So this Libra full moon is the first Libra full moon that we've had that hasn't been an eclipse in quite some time, like a year and a half or so. So it's like we've already come through that whole cycle of Aries Libra eclipses where we were like reinventing ourselves and like having this rebirth and reconsidering how we relate to others and how we relate to life. So now that we've come out of that, reborn this new creature, it's like now we are applying that outlook into the world as a collective, how we're relating to the world, how we perceive the world relating to one another. And we're very preoccupied with democracy right now, with protecting people's civil rights. The SAVE Act passed this week, which is going to make it really hard on women who have changed their name when they got married to register to vote. So people have been suggesting that everyone gets a passport before anything screwy happens with that. You actually need to have 2 forms of proof of citizenship that can prove that you are a citizen of this country and that is you. And those 2 last names need to match. So the thing about the married women thing is that if you, or even like gay people who, like men who maybe took their spouse's name or whatever, whoever took their spouse's name is going to have to go back in the paper trail and be able to produce documentation, I guess, that shows the name change. You'll have to do your own research about what qualifies that, as opposed as in regards to like what you're going to present to the voter commission when you register to vote. If you have to register, I mean, if you don't plan on moving, then still like get your passport, because you never know when you're going to need one, and you never know how long it could take if everybody's trying to get theirs, or with the country being in the state that it's in, you never know what's going to happen. So go ahead and get that. It's important. It wouldn't hurt to change your name back to your maiden name if you can, if that's something that you can do. I know that, like, for instance, my mom, like, just considering it was a bit overwhelming for her because she's had that last name for 50 years of her life now, or 40 years of her life. So it's like changing a lifetime worth of paperwork and accounts and things like that. But it would be worth it, I guess, because you just never know what else is going to happen under these bills that they're passing. So that's kind of like what's in the air right now. And it relates into marriage and being able to participate in the system and protecting your rights. At the same time, I think this full moon has helped us become more decisive about things around what we value and what we want from a relationship, right? I think before, if we were thinking about maybe entertaining a relationship with someone we maybe didn't see eye to eye with politically, like, these days, especially for women, they are having real big second thoughts about getting involved with anyone super conservative, that's for sure. Unless you're dumb, young, and naive, and you're easily manipulated, and that's exactly what they want. That's what they're targeting. So, but yeah, it's really, it's terrible that it has to be this way, but we're in a climate that we've never been in before, since maybe World War II. And that was something that was happening more in Europe than it was here. It affected us for sure because we got involved in the war, but we weren't as deeply entrenched in like Nazism and things at that point, or extremism, or fundamentalism, or radical conservatism. So that's something to really take into consideration when you're thinking about a partner. And so just trying to maintain peace in this country is kind of at the forefront of our thoughts right now. Trying to maintain stability in our own lives with the looming ominousness of what's next, with the extreme, situation in the economy. It's pretty wild. We've never lived through a moment like this. For millennials, every year it's like a once in a lifetime crisis. So we have pretty thick skin, but even still with my thick skin, it's pretty crazy. Like I have somebody that I have a backup pact with. It's like my emergency spouse. And yeah, I mean, we have harmony here, Sun in Libra with Four of Wands. I know that the girls that I'm working with, I mean, we have conversations like, should we save up to leave the country? Do we need to take our money out of the bank? Like, should I go ahead and buy another iPhone before they're $400,000 each? Like, what is happening? And my friend tonight was like, I'm going to reverse 90-Day Fiance. And basically it's like, yeah, now we're considering becoming mail-ordered brides to try to move to Europe and get citizenship in Europe, So it's like fucked up shit we're having to deal with right now. Thinking about today, I was thinking about, maybe, I've always wanted to live in Europe. Is that a possibility for myself? I don't have the kind of resources to hire like an immigration attorney, and relocating, doing something like that would be difficult. But the hardest part for me, I think right now, I think I would go, but I don't want to leave my family. So like, would my family go? Like, could we all just relocate there? Like, it's something that a lot of people are thinking about right now. But yeah, so I'm actually going to read out of the Radiant Sun Oracle, because a lot of these cards really brush upon these exact issues, oddly enough. So we have harmony, the Sun in Libra, bringing balance. We're trying to find this inner sense of balance within ourselves, trying to become emotionally sober so we're not making emotionally reactive decisions. The Four of Wands is a card about harmony. It's about abundance and prosperity, good times and celebrations. It's not like permanent, but it's like a short period of time, like a honeymoon period. You see, it's like the marriage card as well. It's like thinking about marriage, finding a partner in times like these is insane, and then it almost feels like a necessity in a way. So I think this is at the forefront of a lot of our minds, just trying to make these decisions, because in a way it feels like we're being forced to make very huge life decisions in a timing doesn't feel natural to us at all. There's so much up in the air that we feel like there's so many things that we need to decide about our future in this moment. The Jupiter in Sagittarius has us like considering our philosophies in life, but it has us feeling like the extreme views of others are being pushed and imposed on us. And it's not necessarily what we want, but at the same time, it's like we all are kind of longing for like something fun again, something good again, like the good times that made us feel like that sense of romance. Like the Knight of Cups is the creative, romantic, theatrical one with like charisma and flair, charismatic. And so we would like to have that, but at the same time, this whole, this extremism is like turning into like a sociopathic narcissist dictator. You know how they're so big and they're so larger than life, they're so grandiose. Like, I feel like we're just like in the shadow of this like grandiose ego right now. And there's like several of these grandiose egos that are sort of imposing their opinions on everyone. Yesterday on my day off, I spent all day cleaning the house for Passover, and I treated myself to one like videos, like my this relational intelligence coach Matthew Hussey's a dating coach, and he's been like a dating coach for women for years and years and years, and now men are starting to kind of watch the channel too. He was doing a video commenting on the show Adolescence, the series that is sort of highlighting the weird identity crisis that is happening in men right now, where they're feeling sort of like they feel like only the fittest, like best looking, richest guys are getting any of the options. And it was this discussion. And if women are still open to men without any money, and if, you're attracted to like solely this sort of like kind of typical tall, blonde, blue-eyed dude, or this tall, like buff guy or whatever, or if you're like more into like open to different types of looking dudes. And I just made a comment under the video that like I had always been open to dating men who maybe didn't make as much money. Like I've never made that like a priority. I always went on like love is enough, right? And I always dated men who didn't have a lot when we got together. And every single guy that I've ever gone out with basically started with a mattress on the floor and nothing to his name, and totally lost in his career. And I was the one that turned them into like 6-figure earners. And then in the end, they ended up dumping me because like I didn't have enough money, and I didn't have an impressive career, or I wasn't like moving up enough in film. And so it was like, in the end, I was the one dumped for the superficial reasons. And like this guy who was like a total conservative just like found me, of all people, in the comments, because I was just like making that observation. I was like, so I don't know, like half the men I've dated were I was like too good for, because they were like just spending their time like on Reddit and playing video games, and I do creative things. And even though by all societal standards I'd be considered a failure, mostly almost poverty stricken, so like in a way, like I was too much for them because of my ambition and my creativity and the way I spent my time. But at the same time, I wasn't like rich enough and not impressive enough. And so this guy gets in the comments and he's like, well, you got tall girl syndrome, and it's because you make too much money, and you're too this, and a man wants to be a provider. And I'm like, are you listening to me? I just told you I make lower middle income as a waitress. Like how unintimidating can you get at this point? Like I used to work in film, but like, he didn't know that. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Quit my job and get on welfare and be homeless? Like you don't think too highly of those people either. He's like, well, yeah, keep your career. Then he like starts going off about how, well, why did you wait this long to try to get married? It looks like you're 40. You don't really have that much to offer at this point. And I'm like, okay, first of all, not everybody wants to have kids. And second of all, like I have plenty to offer. And it wasn't because I was inadequate. It was because those men were inadequate. They were incapable of having an authentic relationship. And I'm just like, why is this guy? I'm like, you're a troll. You're a right-wing troll. And I said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You're foul evil. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ and everything you said. And he shut the fuck up. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it's so extreme. But these guys and their mentality and the way they think, it's like, this is why they're underhandedly like trying to push women out of any opportunity. They're stripping women in the military of their 5 stars. They're, taking away DEI, and they're trying to like cheat, so that because women have had to struggle so much to make as much money as men or to be considered for certain jobs, we've evolved. We've had to work harder. And in the meantime, the big man in charge of the office usually puts all the work on the women and takes all the credit. And so half the time, like if we have an event at work that like men planned, it is planned so poorly. It's so uncoordinated. We're like, oh my God. But it's like, obviously no women were involved in this, right? So now there's like these guys that feel like, well, their egos are hurt because they're like, where do I find my place in this world? And it's like, instead of just bettering themselves, and so many men are just like, yeah, just make yourself better, dude. But like, there's this group of like, this population of these trolly men who are just like mad and bitter, and they feel like no one wants to pick them. It's because they have terrible beliefs and personalities. Like, because there's plenty of us women that are like, I am totally open to like a quirky man who doesn't make a lot of money. I would love to have someone who just loved me for who I am, and I will love them for who they are, you know, and like be in this thing together. I've always wanted to build something with someone side by side. I don't necessarily want to find some guy who's already rich and established, because then I won't feel like we're equally yoked. Like, so I don't know what's going on, but there's a relationship recession going on all over the world. There's just less relationships happening. And it's like, why is that? Because there's so many lonely people. There's so many people who want a relationship. And it feels like it's so hard to find like a genuine connection. And I think it's even harder for people who've been working on themselves, because they've been, you know, developing like secure attachment styles. They've broken their cycles of codependency, and they're trying to have authentic, real relationships with people. And it's like so many people out there are still like train wrecks and dumpster fires. So when you try to show up and be genuine, they're like, then they just disappear. And so you're like, well, where are the emotionally healthy, intelligent people? Anybody out there? It's like, we must be scattered to the wind. Like, I swear. So I don't know. If you're watching this channel, you're probably someone who does consider things, I guess, more than other people. So take heart that there are women out there who want a real partner and a companion, and they're not just looking for a wallet any more than they want to be seen as a fertility cow, of just a cum dumpster, right? So none of us want to be used for what we can offer and then thrown away when that part's finished, right? We want someone who wants us because of who we are in our heart and soul, for our mind and for, you know, our true self. So let's read from the Radiant Sun Oracle Indecision. All right, so Libra lies between the gentle perfection of Virgo and the dramatic emotions of Scorpio. The constellation of the Virgin contrasts with the sting of the Scorpion. The hourglass shows time, representing the eternal Libran dilemma of finalizing a decision. Personal in Libra, Venus is at home as this sign is the sign that she rules in company with Taurus. Whereas Taurus is concerned with the pleasures of material possessions, for Libra, people are at the utmost importance. All Librans work hard to keep their relationships harmonious and balanced. Social and popular, they do most things best in teamwork and partnerships. Environment is important to the people with this personality type too. Even on a limited budget, they are able to make their home surroundings tasteful and pleasant. A love of harmony taken to extreme, however, can lead to constant attitude of giving in to achieve peace, and given too many alternatives in matters of relationships, the Venus Libran will waffle interminably before making a decision. So interesting, having too many relationships out in the having too many options out in the dating scene with all the apps and things. It's just like it's giving people a hard time feeling like they can make a choice without feeling like, well, maybe the right one was right around the corner and I chose too soon, right? There's also things in here that pointed out that like even on a budget, you figure out how to make a beautiful and satisfying home life, right? There's ways to have opulence that aren't expensive. Aldi has great wine, right? It's not, actually it has, some of their wines have been award-winning wines. But they have great wines, very, very cheap. Great cheeses, to have a good candle going. Like, there are things that you can do that make your life feel opulent, that make it feel rich. And you don't have to have a lot of possessions and things to make that so. Like, look at me. Look at my decor. I love my decor. I feel like I've got a really eclectic, neat little place. And I have everything that I want. I don't want for a lot. And I've been able to do that on a budget my whole life. I'm good at manifesting things. I'm good at, foraging things. I'm good at repurposing things. This necklace, people complimented me on it all night. It's just, I had a pair of earrings. This was an earring and the other one broke and I couldn't fix it. So I made this into a necklace, So you just get creative and you get resourceful. Also the whole thing about like Librans working good in, because they're social and popular, they work good in teamwork and partnerships. So as things get tougher and colder out there in the world, it's really important that we have friend groups and a sense of community where you can help each other out and rely on each other and support one another. And, we might be hanging out at home and having house parties again. We might be gardening and bringing each other tomatoes and whatnot, helping each other fix a car or, things that we took for granted before. It's like we need our community around us. We can barter and trade for things and, people that know how to cut hair, those kitchen salons are illegal. Don't do that. Let's see. But also too, just being organized in these times and being able to figure out in group scenarios, in a group effort, okay, how do we collectively fight these bills from being passed? How do we make sure that children have an education? How do we make sure that the people, that innocent people aren't being sent out of the country to these prisons and things? That takes group organization and group efforts. And so, being able to pay attention to people who are organizing things like this and helping out and contributing where you can, when you can. Let's see. Fortunately, people with this combination usually make very happy marriage, often with someone they can look at as both a friend and a lover. The social abilities of Venus Librans provide them with good opportunities for dealing with the public, and work in liaison and personal areas could be profitable, and personnel areas could be profitable. This planet sign combination also has a very strong link with the world of music and with musicians. If this card is drawn, it suggests that the questioner has come to a stage at which a decision is imperative. There has been much dithering back and forth over an important matter, and now is the time. Now the time has come to be firm and take the consequences. A large social gathering, a wedding, a difficult decision to make, a business partnership in the arts, an artist lover. So very interesting that we have that card, and there's so many cards with that theme of having to make a big decision, not weighing this back and forth anymore, but just having to make a decision and deal with it. We've got Libra, the scales of justice. This often means that the law will rule in your favor. Bringing balance to a situation, balancing your emotions and your thoughts, but maybe making a decision that involves legal contracts, like choosing someone to marry maybe faster than you thought you would, or in feeling like you're kind of like ready to just like make a decision and shit or get off the pot, or like maybe you were like, I like being single for the rest of my life, and now you're thinking like, maybe it would be better to like be married in the middle of all of this craziness, to have someone at my side. Harmony. A beautiful figure sits on a mound and looks up to the heavens. The birds represent spiritual harmony and the transient link between spiritual heaven and material earth. So I really feel like right now, and more so than ever, that whole like heaven is a place on earth. It's like what you make it in your mind, or hell can be a place on earth and it's what you make it in your mind. Literally right now, I can be in hell in the morning and heaven by afternoon, and back in hell early afternoon, and then back in heaven by evening when I'm eating my cheese. It is like, it starts in the mind. It starts in your consciousness. Your thoughts start the whole little machine inside of you, and your thoughts start informing your feelings and your moods. So we have to really stay on top of our consciousness and bring that spiritual growth into our material world. And what is on the inside is going to be on the outside too. So if your mind is going ape shit and you're making reactive choices based in fear, then it's going to snowball into like chaos in your life. So the basic Sun Libra nature is easygoing and sociable, with an ability to relate to others in a balanced and cooperative way. Although the House Libra rules is concerned with marriage and close relationships, it has a broader meaning, governing all day-to-day social contracts. Fairness at all costs is important for the Sun Libran. There may be times when the character that this card describes may be seen as indecisive because of the need to weigh up the pros and cons before coming to a conclusion. Plenty of good conversation and amiable discussion is one of his or her greatest pleasures, and the Libran is a good counselor and probably a potentially good diplomat when helping out friends with problems. Sun Librans attract strong, capable, and loyal friends, and relationships are of paramount importance to them. The best success of these personality types are always shared successes. However, although the Sun Libran undoubtedly works best in partnerships, this card suggests someone who is more of an initiator and who will very often be the member of a team who sets the ball rolling. When one selects the Harmony card, it often indicates a gain from a close relationship, although it can show that one or the other party tends to be pushily dominant. The Harmony card also points to talent in the field of public relations or sales. Situation such as important social gatherings and reunions, extravagant tastes, a difficult decision to make, a pact or agreement, a diplomatic action, being called in to adjudicate a situation. And so this is paired with the marriage card, the Four of Wands here, which can also signify balance and harmony, good times, prosperity in a moment of joy, a period of celebration. But this is also, to me, there's so much about like thinking about big decisions, themes of marriage. I just feel like there's just a lot that is going on in people's minds right now. And then principle. Okay, so ruins represent the establishment of earlier times. The mitre is a symbol of spiritual power across centuries and countries. The constellation Noah's Dove, with its prominent star, Fact, is ascribed to the nature of Jupiter and Saturn by Ptolemy. Now, I think it's interesting that they bring up Noah's Dove. So there were 3 times that God had to sort of like destroy people because they were starting to go off the deep end in their evil. The first time was with the flood, Noah's flood. And it was because people had become like perverse. They were into bestiality and they were like getting out of control. They they were very early in the human development. So they were just out of control in that way. And so the world had become weird and perverted and evil and corrupt. And so God had to destroy the world with a flood. He kept Noah's family because they were righteous, and they had to start over from there. The second time humanity was getting a little bit better, but it was the Tower of Babel. And they had figured out how to become unified and how to use their consciousness and sorcery and the secrets of like the Hebrew Kabbalah to start becoming like creators. And who knows, there's a lot of like thoughts and like conspiracies around the fact that they figured out how to open portals and like bend time and like things like that. So it was like they were getting too advanced for their britches, and they also weren't doing the inner work. So like this is what happened in the earliest times. The Kabbalah has been around since like the Garden of Eden. And when the mixed multitudes would get together, the people would take the Hebrew Kabbalah and they would change it to serve their own purposes. Whereas the Hebrew Kabbalah approaches Kabbalah from like perfecting the vessel to become more like the creator and aligning yourself with the creator's will so you can channel miracles. The Hermetic Kabbalah is all about do what thou wilt and like whatever the consequences. Like it's all about materialism and material gain and receiving for the self alone. Whereas the Hebrew Kabbalah is about making yourself a vessel for the light so that you can receive for the sake of sharing and sharing that light with the world. So the situation in Babel, God had to disrupt their unity because they were becoming too powerful. So he made it so that everyone spoke a different language. He didn't destroy the earth again, but he made it so that they had to speak a different language. So I meant to say that this was the same group of souls, just reincarnated again from the time of Noah. Now, this same group of souls came again during the time of the Jewish enslavement in Egypt. And so these souls knew they were going to come down and be enslaved, and they were going to try to correct their sin again, correct the sin of Adam, and correct the souls and become more like God. And so this time they were put into slavery, and they lived in slavery, and they had to choose to overcome that and to leave that and to face the wilderness of uncertainty and go out anyway with no guarantees and create that faith and certainty. And through that they were revealing miracles. And when they were around Mount Sinai, they were so unified after the splitting of the Red Sea that they really were living in a state of miraculousness. It was like there was no sickness, there was no injury. Like people who had been injured, it was just like miraculously healed. People were like regrowing limbs. Like there was no death, no sickness during that time of unity. But didn't last long. They started getting antsy. They didn't like the discomfort of the wilderness, and they lost their unity. And then they lost that provision of protection. And so things started going haywire and topsy-turvy, and they started having chaos and sickness and the snakes and all of that. So we have this idea of the ruins of civilization over and over and over again when people get too corrupt. And here we have this tipping point that it feels like that we're in at this point in time, where it sometimes feels like the world can't get any darker, can't get any more greedy, can't get any more power hungry. And it certainly feels like we're on the verge of something again. With Jupiter in its own sign of Sagittarius, we see the perfect combination of planet and sign. For lucky people with this aspect, the most satisfying way to enrich their life is through broad, adventurous travel, both physically and mentally. Studying or living for a period within another culture is fulfilling for people described by this card, and a major philosophy or religion will form an important part of life. Although this may manifest as psychology or politics. I mean, that right there is chilling to me. That passage made me want to book it to Europe. I don't like the idea of living under extremism or in a dictatorship. And yeah, to me, I usually thought of myself as would be happier overseas anyway, but I just never wanted to leave my family. But it's just been weighing heavy on my thoughts. Jupiter Sagittarians can also be concerned with publishing, lecturing, and teaching, but always connected with a strong set of ethics. These interests produce a farsightedness that can manifest as seeing into the future. Jupiter Sagittarians have a strong desire to acquire as much education as possible and take advantage of opportunities for involvement in mature studies, which can lead on to distinguished achievements. They are also, however, susceptible to involvement in extremist religious or philosophical beliefs. On the negative side, it is possible that people with this planet sign combination may seek to impose their concepts on those around them to the extent that they develop a self-righteous attitude that rides roughshod over other people's views. When this card appears in a reading, it will raise a matter of principle or life philosophy that is particularly related to the question. Events, planning a grand tour or world trip, being completely immersed in a new philosophy or religion, which in a negative sense might be an extreme dictatorship based in a certain religious extremism. Conversion, the need to persuade others of a philosophy. So these are very strange times we're living in, and we've got the Knight of Cups here, right? So thinking of what philosophy would we rather be submersed in? Is this planet too small to get away from these extremists? Are there places you could go that would be safer places? Wishing that these decisions were being made because of excitement and adventure instead of necessity is at the forefront of my mind and heart and soul right now. So I don't know. I think it is for a lot of people. Let me know what you guys, I don't know your thoughts on this, but I don't know. These, lately, I've been feeling really uncomfortable here. All right. Hope everything is well with you guys. Hag Samek. Have a happy Passover. It feels certainly like feeling like the Israelites right now when they had to consider what it would be like to suddenly leave Egypt. Where even though they were enslaved, they were comfortable. It was the home that they had for generations at that point. So it feels a lot like being in their shoes right now, for sure. And taking into that consideration and thinking about what it was like for them, making that decision, and how brave it was for the ones that did leave, that did go with Moses into the wilderness. And making it so much more personal to ask yourself that question: do I have enough faith to go into the wilderness? Do I have enough faith to take to make a move like that? Can I distinguish between my discernment, my fear, and my reactivity, or the spiritual guidance? It's all on the plate right now. It's all on the Seder plate. All right, you guys, I may or may not be making a video tomorrow. If not, we'll be back together Sunday for our weekly energy oracle forecast. Like this video, download my 2025 prediction series. It's an amazing tool for the year. It's a great source of encouragement and also inner work. There are journal questions that go with each one of the videos in the description box. So that's $10. You can access it through my Stan store. And then if you buy it, you will be sent an email link to the private playlist. All right, y'all. Ciao.